Good morning, everybody. My name is Nat Wilson from the Kingston Collective, and today we're very fortunate to have with us marketing expert Liza Simpson from WCM Digital. So thank you, Liza, for joining us.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
Yes. So we're going to talk about, we thought we'd start a segment called Tuesday Tutorials, where we got experts in different fields giving us some different tips and tricks and just imparting some wisdom as we go to our members in the Kingston Collective Business Group. Okay, so what we've done is I've got a series of questions for Liza here, but if anyone has any questions as we go, please just write them in the live Facebook group and I can ask Liza directly for you. So we'll make a start, Liza. So give a little bit of background to everybody. How long have you been in marketing for?
Very long time, probably too long. Not too long, but it shows my age. So I sort of started my career in hospitality actually, but then moved to corporate and did corporate world for a long time. But I got my, I have two degrees, but my second degree, which was marketing many years ago, and then continued on in corporate world in digital technology project management. So it was around 10 years ago that I actually followed my dream of doing marketing and started working for larger agencies. And then 4 years ago, went out on my own after having a third baby. What else are you going to do when you have a third child? You just start a new business, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing else to do. So I started what was Wave Creative 4 years ago, and we changed the name to WCM Digital a couple of years ago. So I've got quite a bit of experience, a lot of technology experience, a lot of digital production, but a fair amount of Facebook advertising. I've done quite a lot of training and worked a lot in the Facebook advertising space, but really across everything. So across, SEO, across, Google Ads, email marketing, content marketing, all sorts, anything digital really.
So you are the perfect person for this topic.
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to think so.
Perfect. So I'm going to dive into some of your questions. So you just covered off on everything that you do know in terms of what you have covered in your marketing career. What is the one thing that you would say you specialize in?
So me personally, I'm a strategist. So I do a lot of strategy with, small to medium-sized businesses. So we work on a strategic approach to the marketing over a 12-month period. But I have probably my strength in terms of specialist skill is Facebook advertising. But in terms of WCM Digital, Leslie, who I think just jumped on, is my business partner, who also has very similar experience and skills in Facebook advertising and strategy. But we also have a lot of website optimization skills on the team. We have content writers. We have a community manager. We have lots of specialists, Facebook ad specialists and Google ad specialists and SEO. And so we have a full suite. So we're full service digital agency.
Yeah, perfect. A one-stop shop.
But if you're looking for Facebook ads, I mean, it is our core capability in terms of I'd say 80% of our retainer clients are Facebook ads clients, and then we have quite a lot of strategy pieces that we do.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Which is a great segue. So in your opinion, why is Facebook and online advertising so important?
Overall, it's obviously being seen by your ideal customer. So, you've got two approaches to being found online. One is organically and the other is by paid advertising. So, it's a noisy world out there. And as most people would have experienced, gaining organic traction is very difficult. Depending on the channel that you approach, there are certainly lots of really great organic strategies. But in order to really gain traction or get results, advertising is usually the path to go down. And provided that you've done your analysis and you've determined what level of spend you can have in order to gain a profit, then really it comes down to a numbers game, right? As long as you've obviously engaged the right people to do it, or you've got the training to be able to run it, it really makes a lot of sense in terms of percentages. And if you're looking at your cost per acquisition, so even if you're running organic strategies, or even if you're doing lots of content production and you're doing a lot of SEO, or you're doing a LinkedIn outreach campaign, all of it takes time, right? And time equates to money. Even if it's you personally doing it, your value on an hourly basis all costs money. So really it comes down to how much you're spending in order to acquire a sale. And that's one figure I would always recommend every business owner understands immediately, is how much it's costing them to acquire a sale. And if you know that, then it really is just, where do I put the money to get the best results? And advertising obviously is one of those things that it's predictable to a degree, depending on the channel. We have a good understanding of how much it's going to cost to acquire a sale. It's much more predictable than organic outreach. Again, provided that you're engaging the right tools and the right training in order to put it out there. But certainly it is much more predictable to reach your ideal customer.
And you'd say that you could do that for any type of business, really?
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly factors that will potentially inhibit somebody's ability to get to that percentage cost per acquisition. So ideally what we're looking for is 10 to 20% cost per acquisition. So there are things that will inhibit them depending on the channel as well. So, there are certain types of businesses. Coaches are one of them that have a really unique methodology that needs to be employed to get results, and it is quite costly in terms of getting there. There are some changes Facebook are potentially making to that as well, which I won't go into, but it potentially will inhibit them even further from advertising in that space. There's some businesses that are going to have better results by advertising on Google versus advertising in Facebook, but almost all businesses will benefit from some kind of advertising socially and digitally.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Given the current situation, so especially in Melbourne, should businesses be advertising more right now or pulling back? So is it important, because it's a bit harder to get clients right now. So is now the time to be pushing marketing?
Yeah, and it's a question I probably answer once a day, I think, at the moment, and I have for the last sort of 6 months. It's a really, and I'll say this without taking all my agendas away, right? So being completely transparent. This isn't about selling our services. This is about giving, the answer to that question. And the answer, really is a yes. So we'll make it a yes first, and then we'll go into the details of, there's always complexities to that. If you have an e-commerce store, absolutely. If you can ship, from your home or wherever you're able to ship from, absolutely. What we're seeing is a huge growth in every single client that we have in an e-commerce space. More people are online, more people are shopping, there's nothing else to do. So it's really, we've seen lots of, really great results in terms of, the dollar. So there's, in some spaces, there's less competition from bigger guys. There's, it's running really well. So definitely from an e-commerce perspective, yes. Obviously there's complexities in the types of businesses you might have. Let's say, a retail store, obviously, if they don't have an e-commerce, I would tell them to go get an e-commerce store. That would be number one. But if there's someone that doesn't have the capability to operate right now, the question is, do I switch everything off and just sit and wait? And I would say no to that, because I think what's most important, and definitely review your strategy, definitely sit down and work out how you're going to tackle these next few months or the last few weeks. But it's really important that you're constantly looking at how you're generating, an email list, or how you're speaking to your existing clients so they're not forgetting about who you are, what you can do to engage them now that might, bring in some revenue now, a different offering that might, get them to book in something for 8 months' time, whatever you can do, continually speaking to them. But certainly there are some industries that could look at reducing their spend or changing the way that they're spending. But definitely, the space it's certainly not dead. In fact, it's probably seen massive growth.
Yeah. Right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got to think about it. More people are online, right? What we have seen really interesting, I think particularly started to notice it in the last few weeks, is this really, how do I describe it? It's kind of a really obvious pattern in time spending, whereas it wasn't so obvious previously or even months previously. The last few weeks it's been really obvious that some particular products only sell within a very specified time. It's always been the case, but not to this degree, right? So it's like it completely switches off during the week, and then on weekends it goes crazy, and then switches for other businesses. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because of the amount of noise online. Maybe it's that people are kind of, they're getting into a different type of routine than they've ever been in before, and the routine is kind of like, it's like spending is the number one priority, and that's becoming like its own pattern, right? Either way, we're seeing, we're seeing growth. It's just that it's, we've got to be on the ball of how we manage ad spend, really.
Yes. Right. Okay. So therefore, what you were saying before in terms of strategy, it's super important to map out your strategy before you even start any advertising campaigns. You need to know what the plan is, your budget, what you're wanting to spend. So you'd start with there. So the next question is, for someone new to online advertising, where would they start?
Yeah, and there's one thing, I equally hate hearing and kind of secretly do like hearing. Well, no, I don't like hearing it, but all the comments, the amount of time people say Facebook ads don't work, right? And I just laugh it off and think this is crazy. The biggest mistake people make is just going, right, this looks really easy. I'll just turn an ad on. Oh my God, it's not working. I've spent $20. I haven't got any return. What's going on, right? And it won't work, right? It just won't work because it is quite relatively complicated. So the biggest thing really, number one, is working out your strategic goals. So what am I after in terms of revenue, and how much am I willing to spend of that to acquire a sale? So we're coming back to that cost per acquisition, right? That's number one. Understanding how much you're willing to spend over that month in order to acquire a sale, and how much it's going to, or what your aim is, right? If you're aiming to get a return of 90% in the first month, it's just not going to happen. So just get your goals realistic. And then really understanding your customer. I mean, I think, this is something that's often talked about in marketing. It's understanding the customer journey. It's understanding who customers are, who your ideal customer is, what they like to hear, where they are, what they're doing. It's really, really important to understand all of those elements and map out what that looks like, right? What we do in the first month, I don't want to overcomplicate things because I'm very good at that. But what we do is a lot of testing, and that's marketing comes down to testing, adjusting, and optimizing, really. So we work out some scenarios that we think would work. So we say these are kind of different audiences we're going to go after. It might be women between 20 and 55 who live in this area. We map out all of those different audiences, work out which ones we're going to test out. Then with a really low ad spend, we would run some ads to those different audiences and work out which ones, and just to one single ad, work out which ones it's resonating with. We then switch it around the other way, and so we then test creative to the ones that work well. That's kind of the crux of what we call rapid fire testing, and it gets the best results. So it means when we start increasing the spend, we've tested what we're putting out there. We've tested against different audiences. So if you're coming at it completely fresh and you want to try advertising for the first time, I would stick to running some cold audience ads, which is people who've not been to your website. So, you really want to go into your audience data and start creating some audiences. That's a big thing I probably didn't mention. So, your audiences that you want to create will be things like people who visited your website.
Yep.
Have a pixel on your site. You have to have some other technical things too. I mean, it's probably easier if I could send a cheat sheet of what those technical things are, because it's things like schema, pixels. There's little bits and bobs you need to have a look at. Your conversion rate on your website, making sure that's not really, really low. Otherwise, you're just sending people to a website that's not converting. Little technical things like that. Getting your audience set up so you've got your website visits, people who've purchased previously, people who have viewed content in 14 days or 30 days. people who've liked your page, people who look like people who've liked your page. We probably would start with about 20 or 30 different audiences,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And and then we start testing those. So if you're starting out from scratch, you can, like, this is why we tend to say you need to work with someone who's got experience doing it. It is very complicated. If you want to try it out, really, at the very base, what you want to have is a cold audience. So you're driving traffic to the website, and then some retargeting. So you're retargeting people who visited the website previously or purchased from you previously. If you get those, that's sort of the outline of the funnel. And then there are lots of other parts to it.
Wow. Yeah.
It is complex. It's hard to make it any less complex than that.
And I've often said that when I've spoken to you in the past about, online marketing, it's like you're speaking Japanese. Sometimes I don't understand what you're saying. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is if you want to dabble in it yourself, it will be difficult. I would highly recommend doing a course. You can do Udemy courses. You can do all sorts of different courses. Just doing something so that you understand those fundamentals of retargeting and cold traffic targeting. Really, really important. If I would also suggest really sitting down and working out your revenue goals. If you can fit it into the revenue goals, hiring someone who's got some experience to do so.
will certainly help. Absolutely. I've got a question from Jen at Kindness Street. He said, Liza, thanks for all this sharing. When you say a low advertising spend to test an audience, what amount would you start at?
Yeah, we probably start at $5 to $10. It depends on. This is going to make it more complicated, but it depends on whether you're running CBO, which is campaign budget optimization. So that's where Facebook kind of controls the bidding for you at an audience level. And so if you were doing that, you could probably spend $30 a day, but you'd have, say, 15 different audiences under that. If you're not using CBO, if you're just running it as a flat campaign, then you're probably looking at $5 per audience.
Okay. Jen, I hope that helps answer that question. Okay, so the next question I had on our list was, do you have any tips or tricks? So you've actually just covered some of those off.
Oh, there's so many more though. I mean, I think we talk about this on a daily basis in the team. We throw ideas around, we test new things all the time. What is really working right now is what's called UGC, or user generated content. So this is really, really big. All that is basically, or the method behind it, is promoting posts where somebody is using the product or somebody's talking about having worked with you, if it's a service-based business, and as natural as possible. So, not this, you're spending thousands of dollars on a video that is really super flashy. It's just really a matter of asking, and don't spend money on influencers if you can help it, because again, you don't get it that great. Sometimes you do get really great results. I've got one campaign running really, really well at the moment off someone who's relatively famous, but you don't need to spend that, right? You can spend nothing and just ask a client that's used your product and say, hey, in exchange for maybe a product next month, can you just shoot to your phone and just give us a testimonial? And it's just a matter of saying, hey, I really love this product. It was really great. It helped me in this way. And then those sorts of that sort of content is running really, really well at ads right now.
Okay.
Then also running that ad as the conversion ad, and then running it alongside an ad that is for engagement. So you're trying to lift the engagement through the ad. It's just really about what you're going after in terms of the conversion or optimization, just the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. No, that makes sense. Okay. So I think everyone can see just by speaking with you and how complex you were saying it is, running an ad, and all the different tips and tricks, and, getting a cold audience and seeing which one works better. So from me personally speaking to you, I can see the benefits of engaging a specialist such as yourself, but what would you say are the main benefits of, like you said, if you did have the budget to start with, someone engaging a specialist? You know, what they're obviously going to get a lot more out of it, but what, in your opinion, would you say?
Yeah, it's just obviously experience and the speed at which you get to your end result. If you're doing it yourself, obviously there's a high risk of failure. You might spend less, but ultimately you're spending your time anyway, which is still costly. So the benefits of hiring someone in is that you get to your result faster, and you've got someone who's dedicated to getting the results for you. That you're able to spend your time doing more of what you love, which is probably not advertising. If it's advertising, go for it. Do both. But if it's not, then yeah, obviously hiring someone else to come in and do it for you is just, it's going to take you away from all of that. I mean, I think one thing I see a lot of people say is, oh well, it's much cheaper for me just to run it myself. But really, it's not, because you're spending all that time that you could be doing other things on, really banging your head against a brick wall trying to make these things work. And we have a team of people sitting there dedicated to just every single day adjusting figures and adjusting stats and changing creative and just constantly working. And we would probably spend 30 hours per client per month just adjusting bid strategies. So it is really super time consuming. It takes a lot of time to get it right.
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
One thing, sorry, just one thing, and there's so many tips, but I just thought of one thing from a beginner perspective that works quite well too, is rather than boosting posts, so I think a lot of people kind of look at that and go, I'll just boost some posts and it'll be all right. A better way, sorry?
Post, when you put a post up, it's like boost post, and like, oh, okay, yeah.
And it's the same thing as running an engagement post, but it is done differently. It's done in the back end so that you can actually have a better definition of your audiences. So go into your business manager, find the post, and then run it as an engagement post. But if you're looking at a small spend and you're kind of dabbling in it, running a lot of ads to existing posts, that will work really well. That's a really good way to start out as well. It's just kind of dabble in it and get your posts, out there in the world and seen.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Jen has written, Jen from Eclectic Boogaloo, she's written, I agree, your time is money, so outsource where you can. So she's all for it. She's with you there. Thank you for your time this morning, Liza. I know you're very busy, and I think you've given some great advice here. So I think Liza is also part of our Kingston Collective business group. For those of you who don't know, she's also my business partner, which was the perfect person to start with our Tuesday tutorials. So if you have any further questions for Liza or would like to speak to Liza further about
Yeah, there are two ways that you can chat to myself and the team. One is just to book a 30-minute strategy talk where I'll just be super honest and transparent, as I always am, and try not to use too many technical words. So you can book a free 30-minute strategy session, or we will do an audit. So if you want us to have a look at your ads or your conversion or what's going on with your overall funnel, just send me an email. We'll do an audit for you and send back a nice 10-page document of all of the things that we can see that you can improve on and ways that you could do better.
Yeah, which would be valuable for any business anyhow, even if you do it on your own. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you. So we'll continue running these Tuesday tutorials while we are in lockdown, just to help everyone with their businesses. We had hoped to be running business networking sessions and workshops, but I think this is the next best thing. So next week, we'll have another great expert for you, and I hope you can join us then. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Liza, so much. And I look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys. Bye.